It's specifically a roadshow for our digital banking training, which is coming up on 6th and 7th of this next month. Primarily, obviously, the two of us will take it. I'll try to give you a quick background about myself. My name is Sameer Singh Jani. So my background is that I've led digital for initially in 2 decades back with Citibank. So I used to be with Citi and led the digital for Citi. And then I was part of the founding team of Kotak Mahindra Bank. Initially, the first job was to set up digital for Kotak, then payments, and then did few things on the core banking side as well, and in treasury as well. Post that 8 years with Infosys, led digital transformation worldwide. So two of the largest bank in US, which is Ally and Discover, I have been part of that in some role or shape, and also set up a digital bank out of Czech Republic and Slovakia as well, called Zuno Bank. Other than that, a lot of transformation work I've done in worldwide, and then set up a bank back in India called Bhartiya Mahila Bank, ground up when I was with Wipro, and we had worked together with FIS for that. And then 3.5 years with the DCB Bank, and there my job primarily was to sort of I was heading technology as well as leading transformation through digital ways as well. So a bank obviously has moved a lot, and I think we had a minor contribution to it. I think, Shashank, maybe quickly you can introduce yourself, and then I'll take the slides forward.
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Shashank Shekhar. So I head the consulting practice, the Digital Fifth. I joined almost a year back with Sameer. So, before that, I was part of DCB Bank almost 8 years, where I was managing the IT infrastructure and IT governance and the digital banking also. So I set it up complete omni-channel platforms for the DCB Bank, and also build that open banking stack at the bank to build the various business model along with the various fintechs. Prior to that, I've been working with Wipro and L&T Infotech, mainly into the technology and the security advisory services, working in India and the Middle East with majority on the BFSI segment. And Digital Fifth, so I primarily took care of the consulting practices where we are working with the various companies, the fintechs, to help them into the growth strategy, to help them into build the product roadmap, their technology stack, also as the complete the business strategy. So that's all about it. And also we take care of the trainings on the various subject, and primarily whatever we experience on the job building the strategy for the customers, we take those experience into our training process so that we can pass on the same knowledge to the participant of the program. So thanks. I think we can just proceed.
Thank you. Thanks, Jack. So with this, we go back ahead. So just a quick background of the company. We potentially are were the first fintech consulting firm in the country, and potentially we may be amongst the largest right now in India as well, with a small team, but we are large. We are only doing BFSI and technology. That's all we focus on. So if you look at this on the consulting side, we have 3 practices consulting. We work most of our time as co-founder in companies. We set the companies ahead and then move ahead. So we work with, I will talk about a few of the entities we work with, but largely we help in setting the digital strategy of banks, digital strategy of MFIs, NBFCs, help them and set up ground up. So that's the one work which we do, which is consulting. Second is partnership. I'm sure X wants to, let's say fintechs want to work with banks, bank want to work with, let's say, bureaus want to work with somebody else. So there's a need for sort of bringing the ecosystem together. And that's a big piece which we do right now in the country. And we've done India's largest event called Large India FinTech Awards last year. We do FinTech Bazaar. We do a lot of one-on-one deals for a lot of people. So partnership is big for us, which is again playing to ensure that FinTech ecosystem and banking ecosystem dramatically moves ahead. And we do a lot of training. So we had done open banking training last week, and we had digital transformation training. We've done we had one digital lending training, I think a month back. All of them are largely attended by real top management people in the country, and is all curated. We right now train a lot of bigger entities, a lot of bureaus, a lot of other entities in the country right now. Set of customers we work right now. We work with government, Indian government, and as well as multiple embassies. A lot of startups we work, including some neobanks as well in the segment. A lot of NBFCs we work right now. We work with tech companies. We work with a lot of AI/ML platforms in the country. And we also train in colleges as well on fintech and digital transformation. Some of the participants, I think one of the questions which always come, who comes in the class? So we thought we will solve that upfront. In our classes on trainings, we have people from almost all kind of banks in the country. I think to be fair about it, all banks in the country would have been trained in the class. We've had almost all fintechs sending their teams into the class, including a lot of guys have sent their CEOs also, CXOs also in the room. We have a lot of big techs also joining us in the class. And then a lot of AIML companies and a lot of actually colleges also send their professors to our class to sort of replicate our model in their colleges. So that's largely about the company and training. Now come back to maybe, I thought maybe a easier way to look at digital banking is through a very different area, which is open bank. Again, this is a thought in place. Maybe you guys can come back with a different view. Right now, where we are, we think of banks offering APIs, which goes to third-party platforms. And then we think of banks also as digital banking platforms, let's say Kotak 811 or Yono or somebody else. So we think of bank offering their APIs to third party or banks offering their own platforms digitally on. I think what we will do in these 2 days of session, try to tell you how you can actually accelerate this journey, which is building and experiencing online and ensure that your customers get the best experience, best product for your customers. For your services. Also, can you offer them new services which can generate new revenue source? Similarly, we also will tell you how to ensure that you offer APIs on which somebody else can build a new bank, and therefore that partner will accelerate the growth for you, and they will acquire customers for you on which you can grow. Similarly, on the SME side, or maybe you can work with a lot of tech companies as well. Again, API framework has been rather not well used, and we will try to see how you can actually improve it. So both sides will work. How do you acquire your own customers, simplify their journey, make it really powerful? For example, country has a neo bank or a digital bank primarily for retail, but we have not seen any of the banks, largely not any bank has launched a neo bank only, or a Kotak 811 equivalent only for SMEs, right? That's something which has not happened well. And we think that that's an area of space of dramatic improvement. Even if you are offering your partners, let's say corporates, some services, how can you improve it? And then of course, for all of these services, how do you ensure that you work with API stack players like Setu, or you work with NBFC account aggregators, which are like Perforas and others who are now building account aggregator framework, which is again permitted by the government recently. How do you work with API integrators, API gateway players, core banking players, cash management players, treasury players? How do you ensure that all these services are offered to the customer in a very different way, so that the cost of acquisition goes dramatically lower, customer turnaround time of the customer goes dramatically lower, and he gets the experience right now, right away, rather than typical when you, for example, I was asking this question, to be very honest about it, I was asking this question to a very large bank pre-COVID, and I think it was the last day of country coming to a halt, or Mumbai coming to a halt. And the response I got on this question, my question was that for your SME and corporate customers, what is your turnaround time? And the answer I got was baffling. The answer was that we can't measure it, because right now, anywhere 1 month to 6 months it happens. But largely we run still most of these transactions on an Excel, because we have not been able to build anything, and we've never been able to give a priority to it. So I think this is the place we are saying that now COVID has come, the challenges are going to be much more. Can you ensure that all these pieces of jigsaw puzzle of building this in, getting India stack in, and then you have, let's say, for example, recently Kotak has launched video KYC. Fact that video KYC as a regulation was available for a fairly long time. Why only Kotak moved? Why others took more time? I think that's something which we'll solve largely in these 2 days of session. Coming back, I think you would have seen it enough. I just want to bring some of the pointers. For example, in the era of Corona, I think digital banking is here and for now and forever, I guess, because customer experiences are different right now. Customers obviously don't want to touch cash at all. Banks obviously have to go digital. There's again one more piece of information, or how and when COVID-19 will it reshape digital banking. So the pointer which I'll have here is that given that social distancing is basics, the customer expecting different life, and also your employees obviously can't come to office right now, and maybe as many of these entities would have a look at it, we ourselves had a look at it, our office space, and we are not going to go back to office because from a cost perspective it's too high, it is not helping, right? So we have learned the art of working from home very, very well. So can you provide these, some of these things which have to have human involvement? Can the employees work from home? Can we solve that problem? I think both customer side and employee side, the need is very clearly there. They have to be operated in a different way rather than the way we have been doing it. So I think the pointer I was saying, working from home is now key. Can you ensure that forever your employees can be work from home? It can be make a digital impact. For example, maybe your infra, that the VPN access, the way I'm sure many of you would have heard, VPN access may not be available, so you need to enable it. Security is not very tight. Can you enable that right now, saying that, okay, security is tight, still people can actually work from home. Can you enable that? So automation is required at that side. We can't have physical paper traveling at all. I'm sure none of you would appreciate physical paper also reaching your home. I'm sure even teachers will now not try to check the physical paper. They would rather do it digitally, right? So we need to find answers to that back office. I'm sure many of you will be in back office operations as well. So in back office operations, if the document is coming through scanned way, maybe how can you process it? Or also scanned document, can you digitize and ensure that the data is taken out and then processed rather than spending a lot of time on the side? Okay, next is from a customer perspective. Of course, customers not able to step out. To be honest, I work out of Mumbai, and in Mumbai, I think the place where I stay, I think stepping out is not possible much. Other than for food, I have not stepped out in last 2 months at all. Only once we go, and you can understand the process we go through. Go out, pick it up, take bath, take precaution, take precaution, take precaution. So it's unlikely that Mumbai will open fast as at this pace right now, and the way it is going. So how do you ensure that when employees are not able to reach, how do you still operate it well? And I can tell you that the call centers had dramatic problems because call center had issues. They could not operate. The back office has had difficulty. Even the check processing team has difficulty. How do you sort of solve that problem? To be honest, we can't solve all the problems in these 2 days, but there'll be a fair bit of clues we'll tell you what to do. So again, how do you go about doing it? Maybe what our thought is that there has to be a partnership-led model. You need to work with others to make things happen. Also for your services, how do you ensure that they get sort of simplified? To make it even better, maybe we have to look at how do you have your board level strategy getting rebuilt. So we'll talk about that in the sessions. Let's just move ahead. Another thing is that from a cost perspective, I think we all know that salaries are getting cut. We have seen some of the largest of the banks in India cutting salaries. Digitizing is the only way they shall help them. Having an office in BKC is not going to solve the problem, which is where most of money has gone. I think making digital native employees is what the key is. How do you ensure that employees effective sitting at home? I think this is the answer to it. They will not be. So both on the revenue side, we are saying go digital, partner with somebody else through APIs, and also on cost side, ensure that your internal costs are dramatically lower because of integrations and APIs and solving all the back office problems. There will still be people required for operating, and that's what I'm saying, that people like you and me can help in operating in that level. So this is some of the pointers from the job segment. And to be honest, as of now, a lot of people are right now in a difficult situation. Either salary is getting cut, or maybe some of them would have lost their jobs. We've been seeing it, so I don't want to paint it and talk about it anymore. There's enough challenges, but my view is that a lot of new jobs are going to get created, which are primarily focused on, let's say, digital side, API side, AML side, any of these segments, or transformation itself. Can you run transformation for your unit, your organization, rather than sitting in a BAU job? So that's the key pointer from the market side. Everybody's talking about it, time to learn, time to rechange, trying to ensure that you baseline your life. While we are talking all of that, it's not that we are not doing, we ourselves are retuning ourselves to ensure that we are relevant to the market. So it's factually true for everyone who's in the market. Some of the jobs we were actually looking at online, there are API product manager, UPI product managers. There are a lot of partnership-led models. A lot of people digital banking was always considered a small group alternate channel. Suddenly it's become a limelight. It was easier to talk to a digital banking head earlier, maybe 2 months to 6 months back. Today, all of them are playing such a critical role that getting a time from any of these heads of digital is not easy. So I think this segment is changing. Many of these CDOs will also actually take a role of CEOs. You have seen Nitin Chok, a dear friend who is a CDO of HDFC Bank, has become a CEO of Jeevan Bank. So the pointer is that Many of the CDOs and CTOs will now take the CEO position. So if you take that route, it may also be useful for you in your life journey. And of course, same is true on the other side. Many of the tech providers have rules very specifically built purely for digital transformation of banks. These are some of the rules which exist today. Now, what we will take in the sessions, I think important for it, ho gaya, bahut baatein ho gayi, we have talked about this and that, but important for all of us to figure out what will be in the session. So I think fact of the matter is all the banks will have to revisit their strategy. Right now they have a business strategy, but they may not have a digital strategy. I think the time is on right now to build them together. And maybe the business strategy of the bank will dramatically change because digital will change a lot of things. The way Kotak 811 suddenly changed the outlook of the bank. Similarly, maybe in your organization, maybe something else has to change. Now, what will the program design for? What exactly will be focusing on? It should ideally help you in building your own digital strategy. If you are at a very top management side, can you help in the strategy for the organization? So we'll try to create a framework which you can use for your strategy. Or if you are already running a program already, so can you reassess the program and say how you can revamp it and make it far more impactful? It maybe have been created with only 2% of the digital process to be done right now. For example, if you look at the overall lending in the digital side in the bank, I think the overall percentage may not be maybe 4 to 5%, which is going through digital. Rest 95% is on the physical way. Can we ensure that in this period, next maybe 6 to 9 months, that number dramatically changes, it goes other way around, which is 94.5% digital and 5% physical. I think this is the assessment you should be able to do. Of course, strategy and then technology components, how do they go together? How do you ensure that you yourself are skilled to run it? That's largely the program about. It's about strategy. It's about assessing your program. It's about end-to-end implementation plan. It's not about getting a strategy right. Actually, you have to get it done. So we'll talk about how to get implementation also done, which is what we have been doing all our life. And personally also, I think even if you're not able to impact the strategy level, if you are able to address the position why the top management is saying that itself will be a great value for your top management, because they will think of you differently now. If you go back and say, this is the 3 things which we can do, maybe those, I mean, top management may not be getting that advice from as of now. So what are the components which we are going to take in these sessions? One, obviously, we have to take care of overview, what is changing, what is, for example, what are the components of digital banking, what are the trends, what is a maturity model? I mean, when we think about a maturity model, every time we talk about, oh, in my bank, the technology is not right. It's never the technology which is killing. It's actually the structure, maybe that people are not trained, that anybody who talks about, let's say, digital is not well encouraged. The top management may not have the thought process, or maybe the board doesn't have a view on it. So that's the pointer we'll talk about. We'll talk about journeys. How can you simplify customer journeys end to end? And how do you ensure that we have a vision on each segment? So for example, if you have onboarded a customer well, but you don't have a plan for servicing him well, even today, mobile banking has maybe 20 only services. There are not more services. So can we simplify all the journeys for the customer? What kind of tech platform is required? For example, which of these components are jazzy by nature but cannot be deployed? But what is logical and can be deployed right away to dramatically reduce the cost of operations, simplify customer journey as well? Open banking, I think we have been training about this a lot. Maybe we will have a short module on that, maybe an hour and a half, talking about how do you create an open banking framework to ensure that you attract a lot of fintechs onto you and simplify it. So this is again built for both tech companies and fintech companies as well, because then when they look at this, they'll figure out how to position and partner with the banks end to end rather than looking at in isolation. A lot of times you will also have challenges when, let's say, you are trying to create a value proposition to a bank. If you are in a software company or outside the banking domain, you will always think, how do you sell to the customer? What is the customer needing? Why is the stakeholders not buying? Maybe some of the components we'll talk about, what it takes to sell in the bank as well. And then, of course, you can also build end-to-end digital bank. So I think it's called speedboat concept, where you would think about building a full-scale bank, let's say Kotak 811 or DG Bank or everybody in the world is doing. Create a separate bank itself. How do you build it? What are the layers to require? If you create 2 separate banks, how do you ensure that the integration is done? If SBI has how do you ensure that you build it up, but at a dramatically lower cost? Something which we will talk about. How do you ensure that change management happens well in this? How the HR practices will change? How the performance management, for example, in digital side, the transformation projects are very difficult. And how do you ensure that those performances are tracked instead of looking at only end result? Can you get evaluated even when you take small portion of it live and ensure that that gets tracked rather than saying, okay, on one side is a business guy who's done let's say revenue of let's say $100 million, and another guy has done let's say one project which is halfway through. How do you evaluate both? And let's say if this integration or evaluation was done where somebody was building a Kotak 811 equivalent, which is right now in the process, how do you evaluate? Because once it comes up, the impact will come. So that's something which we'll talk about. Strategy, I think that's something which we have built for many entities, many software companies and banks and already. So that's something which we'll talk about. And security, I think, which is Shashank's favorite, his key strength. So governance, data security is something always critical. So we think about technology and we talk about digital, we always come back saying the security and issues will be very high. We will definitely cater to some of these pointers in the session. So these 8 modules we'll teach over 2 days. The sessions are going to be very intense. Maybe I'll stop here. The activity will be very intense. And I will say why it is intense is that each of these modules, I mean, for example, typically we'll start at 9 o'clock and end at 6 on both the days, which is almost 9 hours. But there's also a lot of work which you do in the evening so that learning becomes much more, right? So from a training perspective, while it looks like 6th and 7th is when we are trying this session, actually it is going to be not more than 18, actually it's more than 18 hours. You will be learning maybe around 21, 22 hours. This module, one shot of injection will actually, or readiness will make you at least 5 steps ahead of the market. That's what my take is. Many of the participants till now, we've trained almost 2,300 people in the country. And many of them have sort of gone ahead, taken different roles, taken different assignments. Some of them also set up their own entities. A lot of fintech founders are also part of this training. So I think this is largely what trainings we have planned for. But at this point of time, I think if we can open up for a few questions before we go ahead, right? So with this, I think I pause right now. And Shashank, if you've got some question, you can ask me. And maybe there are some questions I'll ask you as well, because in security and other areas, you are far smarter than me. So I'll ask those questions back to you.
So, Samir, one question is there. Now, many of the, you have partly answered that question because that's question coming from the many of the bankers who are there. Most of the banks and the NBFCs, this program is designed for the wider audience, for the fintechs and others also. But mostly question coming from the banks and the NBFC that most of the banks are running some kind of digital programs within them. How this program is going to help them?
Okay, I think typically these digital programs which are running and which is good. I think your bank was ahead, so it was running, or your entity was ahead. But I think the expectation mismatch is a big issue which you will face now. Suddenly you were expected to generate maybe 2% of the process, the new loans, or 2% of new accounts. Suddenly that expectation moves from 2 to 100% because right now no other process will exist. So we'll try to ensure that some of these acceleration points, some of these change points can also be accommodated. And also, how do you ensure that whatever you are building right now can actually become part of the top management agenda directly? Because impact is going to be huge. But I mean, just as you said that it's a small programs, but they were never staged back. The top management, even I think sales was never looking at these initiatives too closely. So if you can go back and ensure that stakeholders are bought into this right now, you will suddenly realize that maybe your digital transformation program, it may be an RPA integration or maybe 2 APIs integration with something else. Suddenly that will become a live night of the organization because this is on which railroads on which everything else will run. So it says that it was built for 2% of business. It is now moving to 100%. So you have to scale up your numbers. For example, from a technology perspective, you are built for only 10,000 transactions per day. I don't know what the process may be, but suddenly you have to be ready for maybe 10 times, 100 times the number because bank is going to push only that journey. Many fintechs have now, I mean, just to be, some of the small finance banks were working on their digital journey for a fairly long time, maybe 2 years, 1 year, but they all went live in last 1 month. You would have seen few banks doing it. And now entire focus is to ensure that platform goes up. Now, what was built for, let's say, few hundred accounts opening today, they have to scale up to a different number. I'm sure there will be issues, errors, something which was not in limelight will come in limelight. So I think to some extent, this will help you in making it scale up and also ensure that your top management understand the impact of what you guys have been doing all the while.
There's one very interesting, I think this will be primarily question maybe going into the most of the guys' mind. That I'm not involved with the technology or maybe the directly associated with the digital any initiative or the part of the digital team. How does this program going to help me?
I think so. Let me put it like this: if you are in a role, let's say if you are working with a corporate, let's look at few roles. I mean, I'll try to explain some roles. Let's say if you're in corporate relationship management. Now, corporates were right now dealing with only human to human nature, right? So they were dealing with you. You will go back to them and say, I will give you a cash management product. I'm going to do this and that. Suddenly the discussion will change. The corporates will expect answers like this. I want this kind of APIs. Can you integrate those? I want my suppliers to be getting loans based on my invoices, right? And that then he will expect you to put an API for that. Can you change my customer journey? My reconciliation is a big mess. Let's say, for example, let's a large company. My reconciliation is a big mess. Can you ensure that these APIs are provided and this integration is done? And can you ensure that this field is provided? So I think this is what is happening is that what used to be a talk one-on-one at a high level is getting converted into a tech plus digital, both of them. I'm not saying it's only digital or it's only tech. It's actually business mixed with technology is what is coming back to you. So if you're ready for that, that's a good answer you can give back. And then of course, you have to translate this knowledge on the corporate side back to your back office. So you have to tell your operations guy, your technology team, this is what my customer needs. Otherwise, what can possibly you will say, oh, the customer was talking about some APIs. Can you bring it back to them, talk to them? This is such a bad journey for the customer. He expects you to give answers. So that's one side. Business customer is moving from a pure business discussions to business plus tech discussion. Now, let's say you say, I'm right now servicing, let's say, small customers. Let's say I'm handling, let's say, I sell 5 to 10 savings account per month. So I'm in a sales guy. Normal savings account is what I sell. I think this segment is going to be adversely impacted genetically because it will shrink in size. Physical connects are going to come down. So therefore, if you are in that kind of service, it's unlikely that for a long term of time of life, you will be sustained in this role. So you have to anyways transition from this role to next. And we're saying the option is to ensure that you digitize your own bank. And you obviously, after training and whatever else you will learn, can you go back and ask for these roles? And I personally have moved in my life from business roles. So to be honest, I was used to be on the business side. And with so much of focus, I moved from business to technology and digital both all my life. So that you can ask these questions if you might have answers. If you're in operations role, let's say pure play operations role, and you're not doing anything in technology, and you're doing something which is repetitive, again, very risky, very, very risky because your role will get automated sooner than later. So therefore, it is time for you to identify new areas. I'm not saying all ops role will go off. Complicated roles will still continue. I totally believe that at least out of 100 people who are working, 15 to 20% of roles are very complicated and they ought to be there. But rest all which will get automated because the customer is pushing for it, bank is going to push for it. It's unlikely that these roles will exist after maybe 2 to 3 years. So it might be important for you to invest your time. So I think I took few examples. There may be more examples on credit side. For example, if you're doing small credit underwriting, unlikely small credit underwriting will remain non-automated. It will get automated for sure. Only if you are in a very high amount, let's say you are disbursing 100 crores of loan. I think that side, human touch will be really heavy, even for 1 crore, 25 lakhs, but number of roles required generally will keep going down. So important for you to sort of learn upfront rather than post factor.
I think we had a couple of monologues. Yeah, so I think we can just ask if anybody else has any question.
I saw one question from Gopal Krishnan. He's saying that how about digital banking of back office and middle office operation? Will that be covered too? So Gopal Krishnan, basically from a framework perspective, we'll cover it because our view is that whenever we say that front end is digitized, I think it's a bad idea. You have to digitize back office because that's where the pain is. If customer asks for a data and you within the organization, we run around some 10 steps and then offer it, it's not going to work. Customer is not going to wait. Your competitor is going to offer it. So it might make sense for you to change and digitize your back office. If, for example, credit underwriting decision has to be taken faster, it has to get taken faster. Even in treasury, back office cannot reconcile post facto, say after maybe in the end of the day. Can we reconcile automatically? So these are the things which you have to answer Will we have answers for everything in the day? Not really. But what you will get is you will get enough clues in some. If you solve one area, you will automatically get clues into another area. A lot of CEOs join our session saying that while we learned something, but suddenly gave us new ideas in our business. So once we had a guy who was running his company on the lending side, and he was saying, I don't know what is open banking, and we just did 5 minutes of session with him in that day, and he says, I have so much to relook at. So I think it's a two-way street. I do believe you guys are very sharp, and we will also learn from you. So it's a to and fro. You both of us will ask each other question, and we'll learn as a team together. The format of the training is also slightly different. While me and Shashank will train, we will not train more than maybe 50% of the full session across these 2 days. We will have external trainers as well. Somebody who's done a digital bank, somebody who is right now setting up the transformation journey, somebody who's in the banking side and say digitizing or changing realigning their core platform. We'll try to ensure that you will have maybe 5 to 6 external speakers also to align with. So there's a great network out there which will tell you something about new things. For example, when we had open banking session, we had leaders of the ecosystem like a Bank Open CEO or a Yellow Bank or a investor like Smita. We had different kind of people coming in sharing these insights. So we will ensure that we will not just two of us bore you. We'll get enough guys who will actually give you different insights. So that will ensure that some of the pointers we are asking will also get solved. Another question which has come from Rakesh Mandla Modi, right? Maybe Rakesh, we have time, so you can ask your question right away. And we can also see you as well. Rakesh, you want to take your question, please?
Hey, Samir, how are you?
All good, all good.
Hey, good. So want to understand, if we are we'll be dealing with any case studies as such, so that after, we'll be talking about length and breadth of digital banking, a lot of topics will be covered, so that these case studies can help us, have some practical understanding of how they have been implemented in previous banks and how we can take it back to our day-to-day life and all that.
So I think there are two parts, right? All our sessions will be largely on the practical aspect. We are not bookish people, and we will be practical one side. Even though the external speakers who will come will also be talking about almost case studies. But let's come back. That's the one side of what is coming from this side. We will also create smaller groups. So we expect in the session around 40-45 people, around that number. So we'll try to create a group of 10 each. And this group typically works from evening 5:30 onwards to the whole night. Some of them have done a fabulous job. So we can take an assignment like how do you set up a bank like a Kotak 811 and ground up, right? In an organization, we can choose a random organization and build it for that. Another assignment can be, let's say, how do you digitize customer onboarding journeys, right? So you can go back saying, I will componentize this, integrate that, we'll do KYC process like this, or maybe you want to change back office change processes, right? So the case study we can create together. We don't do a hard and fast of this way or that way. That liberty we give to the groups itself, and groups themselves decide who's the CEO, who's the CEO, who's the chief marketing officer, come back with a strategy and present back. So typically on day one evening, you will run those case studies, and day two evening, you will present back. And that is part of the whole framework of evaluation as well. So that's one piece which has worked dramatically better than what we used to do in physical classes. So we always thought that in physical sessions, the collaboration will be higher. Take my word for it. The digital trainings are much better because when people don't have to travel back, they typically are stick to each other. And in the evening, we have seen some people working all the way till 4 o'clock and are waking up early to get ready for the presentation. So I think case study is definitely on the table. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Samir.
Let me see if there is. So the other question which I have also from Gopal Krishnan is how much of data strategy, data engineering will be covered as its foundation for digital banking. So I think let's put it, I'll talk about the data, maybe technology session, you can take it. This session, and I want to be ensured that I'm very fair to all of you. It's not a session where you will learn how to code. This is not the session for it. It's about a marriage between business and technology. It's more a business/tech course rather than tech course. We are not going to teach you how to do coding because that's something which are better guys out there. But we will try to ensure that you understand business and technology together in a one framework. it comes to data strategy, maybe Shashank, you want to take a look at data engineering side, what we'll cover?
Yeah, sorry. So primarily, as you talked about that, we were not going to go deep into that coding part of it, or yeah, how the entire stack of the AI or ML stands. But definitely, we'll be looking at that. Ki how do you put your data strategy in place? What kind of the use cases can be deployed using the data part, the AI part, and couple with your ongoing digital initiative program. Let's say, for example, your omni-channel experience for the customer servicing and the customer issues, how you can plug in that data insights and the data output goes back to support your omni-channel framework. So inputs coming from the data insights and getting plugged into that in your omni-channel service module or the internet banking or the mobile bank. So that's why we'll be primarily looking into more of the deployment of the use cases plugged to digital banking initiatives.
Does this answer your question? Yeah. So one more question which has come is, how is this program different from other trainings and other activities which are offered in the market?
Right, Samir, so I'll take an attempt to these questions and you can add to that. So one is very critical thing, the two part to that. One is as you said that we are bringing the practitioner knowledge into the entire program. So Samir, as Samir introduced that he has already built it almost more than 8 or 9 digital banks. And I also in the previous roles set up the entire the digital banking. So we are learning to the groundwork, like you are asking the question that how the back office can be digitized. We have seen on the ground that what are the opportunities are there, what are the things can be digitized, how the digitization should happen, the data part of it, set up the big data platforms and taking outputs from the data platforms, going back into the digital initiatives and all this thing. So that's more from the practitioner approach that we are trying to bring those insights into the session. Also, the way the program is designed, second part is into the getting the experts from the various areas. Like we are trying to get the somebody's senior management from the banks. How does management view the role of the digital banking into the program? The ground of the CDO or the CTO talking about that, how they have gone into that, how they have looked into the digital programs. Somebody is asked about the practical experience about the setting of the digital bank. So we will have someone who would have set up the complete digital bank from the scratch. Then how the RegTech, somebody is talking about the RegTech, the digital solutions being used into that. So those are the various experts coming from the industry. Somebody's talking about the infrastructure. How do you set up the right infrastructure to support your digital initiative? So that's the second part of it, that we bringing, then getting the expert. And third, as we spoke about that, the capstone projects, then when we design the capstone project, we have really seen that key participants from the different segments, somebody from the bank, somebody from the operations, somebody from the sales tech, coming together and really setting up a business model using the digital things in that 4 or 5 hours of amazing kind of work. So that's experience also we try to bring into that overall program. So that's definitely makes differentiate from the other industry product that we are trying to do. And we intentionally, we have looked at the other programs also and see that we should make that more applicable. Like you can, after 2 years, you can go back and really look at some of the insight which you can apply in your job.
And again, the critical portion is that it's finally your network as well. So I think the best part is in a corporate office job, when you try to solve any business problem, everybody wears a hat saying that I'm the CXO, I'm the business guy, I'm the tech guy. But here, when you have the meeting, there's no ego. So I think I've seen cross learnings to be at a very high pace than what we normally see in a corporate office. So you will be able to solve your business problems here as well. One more question which has come from William Fernandez is that what will you be covering on security aspect in financial services?
So, Samir, we will be touching about what are the critical cybersecurity aspects are there when you're building the digital programs, especially because since you will be moving lots of services on the internet. So, what kind of the cybersecurity risk are there? Also, we will look into from the regulatory point of view, be it India or other side, that what are the regulators expect you to take care of the minimal cybersecurity aspects into your programs. We will not be going into the detail into the like how the firewall configuration and all these things should happen, but more on the study and more on the critical solutions that you should have. And also the critically we look into the data privacy and the protection part of it also, because of digital banking, the more data travels, the open banking, the more exchange of the data. So we'll be looking into that. How do you protect the data part of it? And we'll also building the digital solutions. Some of the critical aspect, like when you're using Aadhaar as a mode of the automating lots of things, how do you protect care of the Aadhaar? What are the different guidelines are there for the Aadhaar for the security purpose? So we look into those aspects and try to cover into the security in the program.
Okay. So next question is from Jayant Akhwari. What he's saying is that would you like to elaborate how digital banking would be essential for MFI and NBFC as they focus on different market segments? So maybe I'll attempt that pointer, Jayant. So we use very simple. NBFC and banks are similar by nature on the lending side, right? The same process, same back office, exactly the same framework, right? So in fact, Brian, last session was with a UK-based college, Hult College. So we are focusing on MFI. So the point is, each of these business segments are seriously impacted. So the focus of the last session was primarily on how do the digital transformation will help MFI. So one of the, and we've worked extensively on MFI side as well. So the pointer I have is that, and we have worked with a lot of NBFCs as well. So the key point here is that customer journey and onboarding journey, servicing journey, all of them are very expensive right now. Even the collections, for example, eNash has started back with Aadhaar. Can you implement it, right? Each of these pointers are not well enriched or engaged in any of these banks, for example, or NBFCs or MFI. So whatever we are going to train is valid as much for a bank as for MFI. It's just that when we talk about it, it becomes, banks have become sort of similar. I mean, we always say digital banking or open banking. I always say it's actually open business. Digital banking actually digital business, but maybe it was not communicating right. So that's why we have called it digital banking. The entire component on open banking, for example, when we do open banking, you would have seen one pointer like DMI. DMI is a company, one of the NBFC, actually does not service its customer directly. It partners with all fintechs through open APIs for onboarding APIs, collection APIs, underwriting APIs. Everything is wired there, right? So the point is, whatever we are going to talk about is valid for both segments, 100%. It's not built only for banks. Maybe you can look at saying that payment is built only for banks, but if you realize NBFCs have to use the same payment railroad, same UPI for lending, and for collection, they have to use NASH. So one side, you will say some comments are not ready and usable for you. You will be using it as part of your business any which way for collections as well. So that's my take, is as much relevant. And that's what, in fact, good 50% of our business right now when we do for transformation is done for primarily for NBFCs and lending fintechs.
Samir, I have a question from Javed. So he's asking, as we scale up digital, there would be influx of structured and unstructured data. So if the session also caters how it can be mined, it would be useful. So I'll attempt, Javed, we may not be going into the detail into the what are the different tools are there to the mining. Yes, definitely we'll be touching about the structured and unstructured data, how it's critical for it to get mined. We'll try to get an expert also to talk about, but mostly we focus on the how do you mine it to make it useful for your digital banking initiatives, digital banking journey. More focus will be on the use cases, and we'll also try to pick up the deployed use cases within banks itself.
I think this is next question is also for you. William is asking this question, which is, what are your thoughts on cloud? Is it going to be integral part of Indian banking ecosystem? Yeah, I think the rest of the questions are linked to it. So maybe his primary point is on cloud and how it will be relevant for banks.
See, I think cloud definitely is relevant. Now India, it's a more like rather than banks adopting it to go on the cloud, it's more on the regulatory that they want to have some kind of clarity that how, but if you look at it in India context also, the banks mostly have started using some way or other like SaaS and all this kind of platforms, they're anyway using it. Internationally, massive push has started happening onto going into the cloud because it definitely helps into setting up the microservices based architecture or the putting a scalable and elastic kind of solution. So that's definitely, and also it's slowly will start adopting in India. But also, if you look at it, most of the Indian banks, large and small, they have already set it up their infrastructure such a way that they have a kind of private cloud internally already in place. So they want to scale up their infrastructure, they can do that. They want to scale down infrastructure, they can do that. They want to roll out any new services in a 2 days kind of the time frame, they can do that. So that's there. But full-fledged cloud adoption will slowly, it will take time, because banks are primarily looking at the more of the regulatory clarification, and more from the security, that how the security should be handled at the cloud.
One more question which has come from I'm missing the point, but it's saying how can I mean, what are the emerging digital solutions in banking? I think that's a very straight question. What are the emerging digital solutions in banking?
So Samir, we'll be touching upon it. Two parts we'll be touching upon into the entire program. So as we spoke about, one of the module that we'll be looking the entire customer journey, and then within the customer journey, be it acquisition, be it on the onboarding, be it on the servicing, the retention, the cross-sell, upsell, what are the different digital solutions are in place that we'll be touching upon it. Second, also we'll be looking at what are the various emerging technology which has an influence on the digital program, like the APIfication or the robotics process automation, the robotic solutions, or even the blockchain solutions, or the entire analytics AI ML kind of solutions. We look into what are the different use cases are from these technologies. So one into we look into the specific digital solution across customer lifecycle, and also we'll deep dive into each various emerging technology and their use cases in the digital banking agenda.
Okay. So I think if there is one or two more, if you want to ask guys directly, if you've not typed, you can ask directly.
Sabi, one question is there, how this program will help individual to reassess their digital banking program within their banks or within their institution, and then redraw the complete map.
I think so. It is also linked to your influence level in the organization. So I wouldn't say you will be able to redraw everything. It's not going to be easy. You will face all pressures. But I think with time, and that's how I have been able to change a lot of organizations. So I think if you know exactly what is the right pointer, and maybe we used to write 3 years, 4 years back something, it's all coming true. So if you can start influencing with our ideas, talking to your top management, redrawings, for example, some of the projects must be very badly impacted, not going live. I'm sure all the other issues exist. In fact, interesting part is all organizations have enough scope for digital transformation. All of the programs will be, I mean, at least good 80% of programs on digital side don't run on time, don't run well. Maybe if they're going live, they're not well used. So one of the pointers I will also always say is that we should not look for a tool as an answer for everything. So one way of looking at it is that I'm sure you already had internet banking or mobile banking. Maybe there's some services are not done out there. We still are catering to some ridiculously old world of saying that can we have a checkbook request and stuff like that when the customers are no longer using it. So the pointer is that can we reassess and add 5 more services? Ask for these questions, saying what is my customer looking at? What are my competitors offering? Can some of these services be offered here? So that's the easiest way of doing it. That will help a lot. For example, if you're on loan servicing side, can you ensure that loan servicing can be done through a digital way where we offer this information in another simplified way? SMSs can be done, but it's very complicated. Customer can't track. Can we add another layer to it and offer it to them? So I think there are ways and means to do it on the lighter side, but more complicated programs also can be constructed. So my request is always anybody who is running digital programs or where you want to do impact, trying to ensure that first 3 months you are able to create some output. You should never look at any program which is very long time, because that doesn't work. First, ensure that if you are doing it for the first time, ensure the first program goes live or some component goes live, which shows real top line and bottom line value to the customer, to the bank, and then start iteratively improving on that rather than take one mega project with a $50 million investment and nothing comes out. So in around you, digitize the process. That is the starting point. With time, obviously, your experience will ensure that you go up in the chain and do higher impact. I repeat myself that it's not a pure tech course, it's a business and tech course. So ensure that your expectations are clearly there. If you're a pure tech guy and figuring out on coding side, we may not be the best guys for it. But if it is all digital, it's about journey. I think we believe that we may be the best, not just in India, maybe best in Asia as well. So that's the only business we like to know about. And that's what we would be able to cater to. Our trainings are built largely on our consulting practice and our back knowledge. So it's not bookish. You will not see a lot of sort of bookish strategies and maybe five L's of doing this and 5 K's of doing this. We will have a basic knowledge which is valid, usable, and which can help you in sort of scaling up your digital initiative. We would love to have you on board in our session, which is on 6th and 7th. I'll also share some other trainings and initiatives we do. So that's largely what we are looking at 6th and 7th. This is basically a baseline course which will help you in scaling your bank's initiatives. Of course, on top of that, you can always take a cybersecurity course. On top of that, you can always take a very 2-day course on digital lending, AIML. So what we are doing is industry first is what we are playing for right now. All of these courses are industry first. We started our training courses almost 3 years back when nothing existed. And by now, I mean, post-training, so many of them, many of our trainees have built their own courses in the education institute as well. We've trained a lot of guys. And some of them, in fact, the industry's largest course is also running on our framework and knowledge as well. So that's largely what we are. I hope to look and meet you in next 1 week or so. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much.